Tuesday at 2 p.m. Is this the ROMKids Show? The 1-year anniversary of the ROMKids Show. It is so exciting. This right here, this Parasaurolophus headdress, was the very first project we did on the ROMKids Show 1 year ago today. We've done 44 episodes. It's very, very exciting. Love to still be able to hang out with you. Hello, for the next 30 minutes, it's the ROMKids Show on the Royal Ontario Museum's Instagram account. It's our distance learning initiative. Hello, hello, hello to everyone in their kitchens who are going to hang out with us today, and hello, hello to everyone in their classrooms or in their virtual school. What's going on? It's nice to hang out with you again. 1 year of the ROMKids Show. The very first episode was the Parasaurolophus, and on today's episode, Interpretive planner Courtney Murfin joins us to talk about whales, a really cool blue whale exhibit that maybe some of you saw a few years ago, and another whale exhibit coming to you later this summer. So we're really excited that on our 1 year anniversary episode, 44 episodes done, that we get to hang out with Courtney Murfin and talk about a really cool future exhibit and the largest creature to ever exist on the earth, the blue whale. And with that, I feel pretty ready to do the theme song portion of the event. And I'm just gonna keep this on for the theme song and then I'm gonna ditch it. But yeah, I thought it was important to celebrate and to use our very first art project. All right, here we go. Welcome to the ROMKids Show with me. We'll make some crafts and tell some stories. Let's talk about science, art, and history. Welcome to the ROMKids Show, starring you and me. There we go. The only time we didn't sing that song was in the very first episode because we didn't have a theme song back then. Let's head right on over to the art table and get ready to talk about whales. I wore my shark socks today because I don't have blue whale socks. So maybe that's something we could work on in terms of new socks that I can own. All right, so again, it's the ROMKids Show. Nice to see you all here. My name's Kieran, I run the kids camps, and today we are going to make one of my favorite activities. I learned about it on TikTok, so that's how you know the quality of it is good. It's big mouth animals, and so we're gonna do a big mouth whale. So it goes, whoa, look at that, like right open. So we're gonna make these. You can do any animal you want. I will be making a blue whale. All right, look at this, eating some krill, just like that. A little bit of a different setup for us today, but nonetheless, I'm really excited to have you all here. What do you need? What materials do you need for your big mouth animal? You need some paper. Normal paper works. I'm using cardstock because cardstock is the only paper we have in our household, but like your normal printer paper will work too. Then you need some drawing materials. I got a pencil, I got a Sharpie, and then I got some select crayons right here as well. And then all you need to do is get drawing. And I'm gonna give you the first step in a second, but first, it's time to introduce our special guest. Whoa! Courtney Murfin, welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm so excited.
We are here to talk about whales. Courtney knows a lot about them, having, I guess, almost put on 2 exhibits about them.
Almost 2, yeah.
So we're gonna talk about those 2 exhibits today, but first I'm gonna give you the first step of your big mouth animal project, all right? So what you're gonna do is you're gonna fold your paper right in half. Try and make it as neat as you possibly can. All right, fold, just like that, okay? So now you have your paper folded right in half. And then the next thing you're going to do is on your one fold, okay, you're gonna fold it down halfway, all right? And I'm not like the neatest folder in the world, so I'm sure yours will look better. But there you go. See that? You got sort of like an N right there, and now you're gonna make an M and just fold the other side down, okay? And then very soon you're gonna get to your drawing because that's the majority of this project. So now it folds open, folds closed, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna draw your animal when it's sort of like half folded like that, okay? So that you can create the small version of your animal, and then later on we're gonna create the big mouth version of our animal like that, okay? And it's whales, and here we are, Courtney Murfin, very excited. The first thing I want to talk about though with you is what's happening in this picture of you?
Oh, I'm getting eaten by a leech, actually more than one. We did an exhibit called Bloodsuckers last year. I'm losing track of time. I think it was last year.
Yeah, 1 year ago.
1 year ago. So 2 years ago, when we were preparing the exhibit, I had to learn about blood feeders. Leeches were a big part of that exhibit. And hey, why not get real life experience to really understand what we're working on? So we had some in the lab, and I decided to hold one, and it started to eat me.
I really think that it's awesome that in order for you to get into the mind of a bloodsucker, you yourself had your blood sucked. So I like to open with that pick just to get us going. But you are an interpretive planner. Can you tell us about what that job means and what do you do?
So interpretive planners work on exhibits, galleries, other types of projects to come up with the storyline of what an exhibit's going to be about. So we help figure out what the sections are going to be, what visitors will do, what they'll see, what they'll hear, what they will read, the different things that they might learn or take away from the exhibit. And then we help develop all of it. So a lot of that work is writing all of the labels and text panels or helping to write them so that everybody can understand them and so that they're engaging and they hit all the points we want to hit. Coming up with videos and creating the narrative for a video and working with a huge team to help it all come to fruition and actually make it happen in the show.
Okay, you talk a little bit about a team here, and it's really interesting because sometimes we don't always think about all the people that work in a museum. And so similar to like when we had Anne Leet on, who's a project manager at the Royal Ontario Museum, and we did an entire episode with her about how she gets exhibits to and from the museum. That's a great episode. You can watch it on YouTube. We mummify an apple in that episode. But so do you like design the exhibits? Tell us a little bit more about like where you're placed in all of this.
So I am not a designer. I don't have any design training or really any design skill. I work with designers. The exhibit designers will take all of the information and the storyline and all of the goals and learning outcomes that I help come up with, and then they will create the physical exhibit out of all of those. And so I work very closely with the designers to make sure that what they're designing achieves all of the learnings and everything that we want visitors to take away or experience in the show. And then I also work with curators who are part of the team, and they're the experts in the subject, whatever subject we're working on. And so I have to work with them to make sure that everything we put in the exhibit is accurate, that it makes sense, that it's appropriate to the historical or the cultural or the scientific material and their knowledge. And then I also work with video producers to actually make the videos that we come up with in Storyboard. I work with tech developers to build interactives, artifact specialists. A huge team helps an exhibit actually get made.
One of my favorite things when seeing Courtney in the museum is you'll often just see her like wandering through a hallway with like an object in her hand that she's trying to get a better sense of. So it's a really cool job where you get to like see so many different parts of the museum and get to tell really cool stories. What's the most interesting part of your job beyond getting your blood sucked by a leech?
It's just that the interesting stories and the interesting experiences, because the ROM has so much amazing knowledge in its walls. I get to work on ancient history. I get to work on current cultures. I get to work on science shows of like crazy animals that live in bizarre environments to the largest animal in the world. And I get to learn all of those stories. And to do my job, I kind of have to become a really mini expert in all of those areas. so that I can understand how to communicate it to the public. And so I get to really take in all this incredible knowledge and work with people who are so brilliant. And then I get to have cool experiences along the way that I then can translate into visitor experiences. So while people could not hold a leech in bloodsuckers, I was able to describe what it feels like to be bit by a leech because I actually got bit by a leech. And just so everyone knows, it does not hurt that much. It feels like a paper cut. That's all.
I had the opportunity to also have my blood sucked by a leech, but I couldn't do it. Courtney is much braver than me. Very, very quickly though, because you've worked on so many great exhibits. If folks at home remember bloodsuckers or spiders or whales, or one of my personal favorites, water, Courtney Murfin was behind that. But what's your favorite exhibit you've ever worked on?
Oh, easy. The blue whale. I mean, you can tell. It's my favorite thing to talk about. And I love bloodsuckers, but the blue whale exhibit was a special place in my heart for that exhibit, for sure.
All right, let's go into Blue. Is that Blue right behind you?
That's Blue right there, her real skeleton. And then this side is a video, so don't be fooled, but that was a video from the exhibit.
Okay, what's the deal with Blue's story? Because I know it was all over the news just a couple years ago.
So Blue is the name that we gave to the blue whale that is now part of our collection. So Blue is a female blue whale who died in 2014. So we're getting on in years now. What's that, 7 years ago? She died in the Gulf of St. Lawrence on Canada's east coast. So she was Canadian. Blue whales, as we've been saying, are the largest animals in the world, and they're so big that when a blue whale dies, it usually sinks to the bottom of the ocean. So it's really rare for scientists to get a chance to study them. But Blue, somehow she was special. She washed ashore onto this small town in Newfoundland on East Coast Canada. And so scientists got an opportunity to study a blue whale, to collect this whale and research her skeleton, preserve her skeleton, and DNA and other tissues for research, and to bring to the ROM in an exhibit so that I actually got to meet her, which was so special, and so many other people got to meet her in the exhibit.
So right now I'm just showing a bunch of pictures, a little video of a bunch of pictures from where Blue sort of washed up in that sort of tragic day. But a little bit more on how did Blue get into the ROM?
So it took about 3 years to get Blue from Newfoundland to the ROM. Our exhibit, the first exhibit, opened in 2017, and she died in 2014. So it was a long process. Scientists from the ROM and from another company called Research Casting International that are experts in flensing, so collecting whales, and locals in Newfoundland worked on removing all the flesh from her body. I won't be too graphic. They took off all the flesh and collected the bones. The bones were trucked into Ontario, and the bones then had to be cleaned of any sort of extra organic material, so flesh or grease, oil that was still left on the bones had to decompose off. So it was buried. All of her bones were buried in manure for over a year. And then, of course, when that was over, they cleaned because they had been in poop. So there was a big...
A whole whale
yeah.
buried in poop.
And she's a big whale, so that was a lot of poop. So then they had to be cleaned. So Research Casting, which is just in Trenton, just outside of Toronto in Ontario, basically built like this big car wash mechanism to shower all of the bones and clean them out, and then mount the skeleton and bring her to the ROM. So that whole process took 3 years.
Wow, 3 years. Okay, very quick. I've done sort of my small version of my animal, my tiny blue whale, and now I'm gonna do my inside, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna connect the tail here, and I'm gonna make a big giant mouth for my blue whale to eat a ton of krill. So that's your next step right there, and I'm gonna do that too with you. We have a question from the chat. How long did it take to put the whale together once inside the ROM?
Oh, so it's a bit tricky because she actually was assembled at research casting. So the skeleton was assembled at the place where she was being cleaned and then sort of taken apart like a puzzle. And so by the time they brought it to the ROM, they were able to reassemble the skeleton in like 3 days, between three
What?
days and a week, something like that. So it was really quick work because they had already done it and figured out all the ways that the bones go together earlier.
That's wow. We showed a little pic of the whale sort of disassembled in the museum downstairs in the gallery. Now, I want to know the truth, and we're going to hear it right here first on the ROMKids Show. I want to know the truth. I heard a rumor that Blue, the blue whale, was too big to get into the exhibit.
Okay, so the skeleton all comes apart. They're all different bones. She is the biggest animal in the world, and her head was too large to fit into the elevator. So our exhibition hall is 2 stories below our main level. So there's an elevator that brings all of the artifacts and specimens, all of our objects down into that exhibition hall. Her skull, so these bones, were too big to fit in that elevator.
What?
So we had to use, luckily there's this like secret hatch between the loading room and the exhibit hall that opens like a garage door. And so we opened that door and she just fit through that door. So we had to slide her through and then kind of catch with hooks and lower her down into the exhibit.
That's wild. It's so interesting to think of like how we get these things into museums. And I'm not sure if like when we were designing it, we ever had in our mind that one day the biggest animal in the world would one day be on display. So how are you going to get it in? Now, what I want to do is at this point, I've done this before, but to our audience, whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're watching live, your classroom, kitchen, whatever it is, one of you might one day become my boss at the ROM. One of you might one day become a great director of the Royal Ontario Museum, and I'm going to give you a free pitch. Okay, so a free idea that you can take. Right now in Chen Court, we have the Foodalonkosaurus, which is one of the largest animals to ever walk the earth. Then we have the Quetzalcoatlus hanging from the ceiling, which is the largest animal ever to fly on earth. My free idea is to put the blue whale also in Chen Court, hanging down. You have the 3 biggest animals of all time, one room, free idea. Someone please take that. Please do that for me. That's really, really exciting.
Love it.
Where's Blue now?
Blue's in storage right now. I love the idea. We all want to see her displayed somewhere in the museum so we can visit her regularly. So I love your idea, and please somebody take it out in the world and make it happen. But for right now, she's in storage, but she is coming back.
Whoa, okay, so I'm really excited everyone's going to hear it here first. That Blue is coming back to the ROM later this summer, sometime in June. But she's not coming alone. Who's she coming with? She got friends.
She's coming with great whales. So great whales is what we casually call the largest whale species of all whales. So Blue is coming back as the largest animal to ever live on Earth. Blue whales are obviously the biggest of the great whales. She's also coming with a right whale and a sperm whale, 2 males that are going to join her in the exhibit hall.
There we go. We're just showing them off right now. The first one was a blue whale. This one is which one's this one? Is it the right whale?
Right whale?
Yeah, right whale. And then this one is, oh goodness. Oh, here. And here is
Big forehead.
Sperm whale.
Yeah.
So very excited about all of these like special animals that are joining us. What's unique about these 3 different whales? Because they're not the same, right?
Right. So these are 3 different species, and even the individuals obviously have variation within the species. So the blue whale, as we've been saying, largest animal on Earth. It's a baleen whale, which means it has sheaths in its mouth instead of teeth. It has sheaths made of keratin, which is the same material as your fingernails. And those have bristles on the ends that trap tiny krill. So this is really helpful for your art project there, Kieran. These bristle sheets trap teeny tiny krill in the whale's mouth. So they act like a filter. The right whale, so the one in our exhibit is a North Atlantic right whale, that particular species. They're also a baleen whale, so they feed with baleen sheets. That species, the North Atlantic right whale, is unique because it's actually one of the most endangered whales.
Whoa.
Its status went from endangered to critically endangered just this past year. The sperm whale is a toothed whale. So it has teeth like killer whales, like dolphins, but the sperm whale is the largest of all whales. It's only one large enough to be part of the group of great whales.
Whoa. Okay, so I'm really excited to have all these whales here. You sort of spoke a little bit about how one of them just this year became even more endangered. So something that's like sad that is similar with all of these animals, though, is that they're all threatened. Why? Why are all these glorious, giant, special, peaceful animals? Why are they so threatened? Why are there so few of them?
Yeah, it is really sad. A lot of whale species are endangered. The biggest reason is because humans used to hunt whales. Whales have this layer of fat to help keep them warm and to help them float in the ocean. That's called blubber. And so humans hunted them for blubber and other materials that we used to make oil and different products that were essential to our lives. That hunting brought whale populations to really, really low numbers. And nowadays, even though we don't hunt anymore, hunting whales is illegal. Whales are having trouble rebuilding their populations because other human activity that happens in oceans or that affects the oceans is hurting whales, killing whales, or just stressing them out so that they're having a really hard time repopulating.
Oh, that's interesting that you mentioned like they get stressed out. What's something that stresses out a whale?
So noise pollution is an interesting factor. The ocean is really noisy already. The land underneath shifts and makes noise. Other animals in the oceans make noise. And then human activity comes in. So boats traveling through the water, or military activity, or sonar, or different activities that humans are doing in the water add noise. And so whales are having trouble communicating because they communicate by sound. They don't speak words like we do, but they make sounds to talk to each other. So our noises are getting in the way of whales' noises. And so they can't communicate, and that stresses them out. General pollution, water pollution, also is affecting their food resources and making them malnourished, essentially. There's a lot of different things just from having to share the water with humans that is just stressing them out.
I think that's so interesting because we think about, these large, giant animals, that something could stress them out. And one of those things is it's all of the noise that boats can make, which again is done by us, okay? Just showing them some video of some whales swimming through the ocean right here, taken by a photographer and videographer and good friend, Vincent Luck right there. Love that footage. I'm going to tell you something that I loved about the first exhibit, and then you can tell me something that you really love about the new one coming up. In the first exhibit, we had a giant blue whale skull that you could sit in. And at camp, which is, the work that I do, we loved to sit inside that blue whale skull and just like have a lesson, read a story, learn about all the cool things in the exhibit. So with that in mind, what's something in this exhibit that you are so excited about?
Well, first of all, good news for you. The skull is coming back. You will get to sit inside Blue's skull yet again.
Sit inside a blue whale skull. That's so awesome.
Who gets to do that? When do you get to just sit inside a whale skull? The thing I'm most excited for is to see Blue again. Her skeleton is incredible. It's huge, it's magnificent, and you can get so close to it. I can't imagine being that close to a whale. any other time. But also these large life-size videos, so the one I'm pointing to is obviously just a photo of the big video, but beside each skeleton, each of the 3 skeletons, is a life-size video of that whale swimming. And there's going to be one moment in the exhibit where you're surrounded by the blue whale and the sperm whale at the same time. And to me, in my head, it's going to be the closest I can get to actually swimming with whales. I'm not an avid scuba diver. I don't live by the ocean, but if I could, I would love to live underwater with whales. And this is probably the closest chance I'll get.
It's really cool because in the first one, the room was sort of blue. So you can see it right behind Courtney right there. And so it kind of felt like you were swimming. And so I like that sort of, it gets you close to this. Okay, I have another question. What are we going to learn in this exhibit?
Okay, so whales have inspired humans for hundreds of years. They're in a lot of our stories. They're in a lot of our artwork. And it's because they're really amazing and mysterious at the same time. So this exhibit takes us through basically why they're so amazing and why we've been fascinated by them. We learn that they are mammals like we are. So they have to live in a lot of the same ways that we do, but because they live in such an extreme environment where humans could never live, we will also learn why they're so different from humans and what they need, their biology, their lifestyles, how they feed, all these different ways that they live in the ocean. We will also learn how they evolved. Whales evolved from animals that lived on land.
What?
That kind of looked like a dog. And then they evolved into these giant aquatic animals, which is crazy. And then we will learn all the conservation risks that they face, all the things that are putting them at risk today, all the work that's being done to help save them, and most importantly, all the things that we can do, even in Toronto, to help save the great whales.
Okay, tell me one thing, because we're in Toronto right here. What's something that I can do to help?
So my biggest thing that I've learned from this exhibit, and we're hearing a lot about this lately, is if you shop locally, your products that you're buying are already in Canada. If you buy things that come from around the world, a lot of those products have to come in on ships from other countries. And so if those ships are coming through the east side of Canada, the Gulf of St. Lawrence, that's where whales are during their feeding season because that's where their food is. And so the more ships that are coming through with our international purchases, the more risk there is of one of those ships hitting a whale and hurting them or killing them. So I now am going to shop locally as much as I possibly can.
Also, way to keep it topical, I think the Ever Given is now out, sort of, and refloated in the Suez Canal. But yeah, your stuff comes from really far away. So if you could get it a little bit closer, maybe you don't close up a major port of business as well. Okay. How do you make an exhibit during a pandemic is a question that I asked Emily, and I also want to ask you as we sort of wrap up our talk right here.
So on my side, Emily probably had really unique challenges as a project manager. For me, coming up with what the visitor experience is going to be, for us, that looks very different during a pandemic. Normally, we try to fill our exhibits with all these things that people can touch and interact with, and we couldn't do that during the pandemic. So a lot of parts of the exhibit are coming back from the first show. So it's your favorite experiences from the first exhibit, you're going to see those again. And a lot of those are touchable or interactive. So we've put sanitizers, built them right in so that it's available everywhere. But there's also a lot of no-touch options. There's a new search and find activity where you can find all the different animals that feed on a dead whale. Sounds sad, but it's actually really cool. They support a whole ecosystem. You can, like Kieran's favorite experience, walk into the skull of a blue whale, which doesn't require touching at all. And then there's also really incredible immersive experiences like these life-size videos. There's a sound chamber where you're surrounded by the rumbling calls of whales. There's a really deep sea video of a sperm whale echolocating on the hunt for a giant squid. There's photo interactives. There's challenges where you have to try to live like a whale. How long can you hold your breath for? How do whales sleep? So all of these interactives have been redesigned so that you don't have to use your hand to touch them, along with all these other sensory experiences. And so it was really interesting to use sight, sound, and all these things that don't require touch.
It was really cool. There's, you know, so many unique ways that we can get back to being inside of our museum. We don't have, so first, here, I did it. Here's my tiny whale. Here's my big mouth whale. You can see it got its baleen to eat all that krill. Looking super cool, looking super cute. My original one, I kind of like a little bit better. I spent a little bit more time on it, but there you go. And you can do that with any animal. We don't have time for a speed round, but I'm gonna give you one question that came from the chat. Whale poop, climate change, is there a connection?
So whale poo is super interesting. I'll try to do it quick if we're out of time. Okay, whale poo is full of nutrients. And there's a lot of it. Whales are huge, so they poo a lot. The nutrients in whale poo are eaten by plankton. Plankton are tiny little plants that perform photosynthesis. And so when all these little plankton plants, called phytoplankton, when they swarm onto whale poo and start taking the nutrients, what they do is they pull carbon dioxide out of the air and trap it in the ocean. So they help clean our air. And they're attracted to whale poo. So the more whales there are, the more whale poo there is, the more phytoplankton will come to eat that poo, the more carbon dioxide will be taken out of our atmosphere, and the cleaner our air will be.
That's awesome. Great question. Great answer. My final question to you is when does the great whales up close and personal open?
Great Whales Up Close and Personal opens this year at the end of June.
End of June. That's it. That's awesome. That's so exciting to hear. And that's the ROMKids Show. Courtney, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, that was so much fun. Thank you.
We had a lot of fun learning about whales today, and frankly, there was a lot of poop discussion, which, you know, I think is kind of interesting and appropriate for a children's show on Instagram. This will be up on YouTube later this week, so if you're watching on YouTube, hey, how's it going, friends? Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back next Tuesday with another episode all about minerals, and we're even going to grow our own mineral. I hope your big animal is looking awesome, and with that, Courtney, because I have to sign out for our show today, can you do the ending?
Hey, I watch every week. Let's see if I get this right. Bye, everybody. Stay safe. Wear a mask. We love you. See you next week.